Now in this demonstration I'm going to show you how to produce a very simple church subject. First of all, I'm starting off by putting some ivory on top of the sand coloured paper. Sand coloured paper is an asset here because it will give us an undertone which will be absolutely right. Now just here, this is the lighter part of the church and we'll have a darker roof on it. Now we don't want to overdo this, so I'm going to use the grey, and this is 233 grey, and this will go very lightly over the darker section of the church. The light's coming from this direction, so it will hit all of these areas here lighter, and over here will be automatically darker. Now don't worry at all about the fact that that doesn't look very even at the moment. It will do in just a moment because I'm going to show you how we can get that. I'm just going to make it just very, very slightly darker because I know that when I put into operation my next effect technique, it will darken down, or lighten up, shall I say, from that dark colour. Okay, here we go. Now I'm using a colour shaper. Any blender will work the same way, but what we want to do is to blend this in, and it will create a greyish, ivory-ish tone, like that. Now that's ideal. That's an ideal combination. So what's next? Well, what's next is that we've got to come in with just a little bit of dark, very, very lightly, on some of the areas that will be darker, like the windows, for instance. Now, in a picture like this, you don't have to be really too fussy, as long as you get the details and the perspective right. Now just here, each one of these little turrets will have a shadow on that side, like that. And we can just put just a little bit of shadow on that side, even though, and then continue that line along here. And there's another one there, which continues along there. Right, now I'm going to make the edge of this church just ever so slightly darker, because it will give us a better contrast to the sky. And then come down on this side, and on this side. Now already it's looking good. Now I can put some windows in. Like that. Now that is a clock. Now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to put just a little bit of blue in. And we've got a blue cock. Very light touch. You don't need to be very strong with these tones. They look good as they are. And the pastel paper that I'm using, the Ochre pastel paper, which is our own pastel paper we have, creates almost like a brickwork effect, as you can see. So we can leave that as it is at the moment. Now there's just a little bit of dark there. Got to watch on perspective here. It slopes very slightly down. Now the other thing we can do here is just on the turrets, top of the turrets, we can just put a little bit of white. I don't have to worry about that side. Maybe I put just a little bit on there, like that. Now that looks good, doesn't it? Now I've got a very sharp 181, which is Payne's Grey. So let me show you how I can actually make that just that little bit stronger. Now, by using the 181, make sure this is sharp. You can just turn it on its side because you get a better angle then. And there's our spire. Never be too fussy. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the turret or the tower in, could I say. While I'm this way up, let's just put just a little bit more definition in there, like that. And you can also just come put a little bit more of the window. Now, you can do this the other way up if you want, but I kind of find it sometimes easier if I've got lines like this to do, to actually do it. And also, it's more impressive to you when you see this finished. And I present it to you in the other way now. Just these lines that I've already put in, but add a little bit more to them. Now the window here can have just a little more weight to it. And so can these. More on this side because of the light that's shining from this direction. So you can make an awful lot of these things. Now the clock will have a light on this back area because it will be where the light is hitting it. A little bit of wind on that window and a little bit more there. Okay, I don't think I want to do any more. I think you'll see when I turn this round the other way, just on the edge, like I did say when it was the other way up, that edge gives you just that little bit of more depth against the sky. Now that looks pretty good to me, and I wouldn't do any more. Let me turn it round and show you how that is actually looking. Stunning, isn't it? One of the other things here, you do the same thing with these. All I've done here is just put, there's going to be a tree line coming in here. A little bit of depth in here. Now, what about the roof? Well, I've also got something to do here. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using the grey, and what I'm using is this lighter grey, first of all, and then the other grey, which is the mid-grey, and then I'm using another colour, which is 169. We haven't used this yet. And that will serve us to give us just a little bit of colour on that. And that'll give you an idea of what we're going to be doing here. So let's do this with a little bit more pressure. I want to put the grey in first, exactly the same as I did on that. Followed by the mid-grey. Now when you've got a roof, and again, we've got the texture of the paper wouldn't help us here. We don't want to make it solid. So the more texture you can put in here, the better it'll look. And what I would do with that is, before we put the next colour on, I would use the colour shaper just to push the colour into the paper. Couldn't do it up there, it's too small. Down here works a treat. Now, the 169 can come on. I'd draw in the edges here before you actually start putting in the roof itself. Now, if you're clever, what you can do with this is you can drag it across. Let me show you what I mean. Now, I've brought you nice and close to see this. And what you do with this is you go across the roof. As I said, the tooth is helping. You're almost putting tiles in. Suggestions. You can do this with all them. I'll be doing it with the other roofs as well when we do the other dens. There you go, now look how nice that is. And when I pull back in a minute, you'll see. just a little bit more depth on the top, so we have a good contrast, and a little bit more here. Now what you can do there is just bring the ivory pencil down here so that you get a really nice contrast between the roof and the church. And to be really fussy, you just use your colour shaper again just to push that in. Don't rub it because it'll end up by smearing and smudging, but that looks really stunning. Now let me pull back and you'll see just how nice that actually does look. There you are, look how great that looks. Look how nice it is against the sky too. Now we can leave it at that, or there is one other thing you can do. I've also got another pencil which is 182. Now you don't have to do this, but this is something that is really interesting. You'll see me do a lot of demonstrations. You can use the ochre very, very lightly. Notice how I'm holding the pencil. And just put a little bit of this in. It just makes the picture just that little bit brighter. As I say, you don't have to do that. It looks good as it is. But this is just one little addition that if you really want to make it look a bit special, and of course in here too, I'll just speed this up now because you've seen how it's done. And also in here too, it can come. The grey and the ochre, that's the mid-grey I used, works really well together. So it'll combine nicely. So there we are now, I've nearly finished. Let me just run across. I'm using the pastel paper, in fact, to almost pick the colour off of my pencil. And there we are. Now that looks great. And once again, the old trick, I'm going to use the other side of that to dab it again. It just pushes the colour into the paper, makes it just look that little bit more acceptable. There you go, that's done. One great church. I'll be doing more dems on this particular landscape, so watch out for them. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.